Hey there, Aubrey. How's it going?
I'm great, Lindsay. How are you?
Good. Aubrey, has anything been frustrating you lately?
Yes, my laptop keeps dying. It'll just shut down
Oh,
out of the blue. And I'm like, not this again. I have to make
oh
sure
my
it's plugged in at
gosh.
all times because there's like no warning, no notification if the battery's dying. It
Oh,
just turns off.
that's the worst.
It's
That's the
the
worst. It's
worst.
time for a new laptop, I think,
Oh,
right?
unfortunately, it might be. Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's a big project to get a new laptop. You have to figure out all the programs and just everything. It's
Switching
wild.
everything over. I know. I always
Mm-hmm.
dread
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So today we are getting into a question that came from YouTube, Aubrey. Do you want to go ahead and read the question?
Yes, so this was from Scottish Road Pinoy 9084 on YouTube. And this listener said, can you say not this plethora again? And this is really interesting because I think this listener is taking that phrase, not this again, like I said about my laptop, not this again, and wanting
Yeah.
to emphasize it even more and thinking,
Uh-huh.
how can I add band 9 vocabulary? Could I add the word plethora? So we
Yeah.
can't do that because this is a chunk, right? It's very idiomatic. This is a
Yes.
chunk. You would just say, not this again. But we're going to give you some high scoring options, other ways you can say this. And also, not this again is very conversational, but you could use it to narrate thoughts in the past. So we're going to show you how to do that as well today on IELTS Speaking.
Yes. Yes. So we know what you're looking for and we're going to give it to you. And that's why we're here for our listeners, right? To help everyone get to that band 7 or higher through this show and our course, of course. Guys, go ahead and hit the follow button right now to make sure you don't miss a single episode of IELTS Energy.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Hit follow wherever you listen to podcasts. So to dive into this phrase, not this again, it's interesting. In order to emphasize it, we just change up our intonation. We hit this even harder, right? If I were really frustrated with this laptop issue, then I'm going to say, not this again. And I'll sort of just say that
Yes.
hard instead of adding another word to emphasize, right?
Right. Not this again. Not this
this
again.
again.
Yeah, you can really feel the upset in your voice, the anger, right?
Right.
The
Because sometimes we
annoyance.
do say it a little more chill, like, oh, not this again. It's like a little less annoying, depending on how we say it.
Sure. Good. All right, Aubrey, what else do we need to know here?
Yeah. So we want to show you how to use this phrase on IELTS Speaking. It's great if you are narrating thoughts in the past on IELTS. So for example, if you're asked on part 1, if there is anything you would like to change about the place you live in, you could say something like, to be honest, my upstairs neighbors are super noisy. Whenever I hear them stomping around, I think, not this again. So I'm narrating
Yes.
my thoughts in the past. This is very high level, very high scoring. Students don't do it that often. So if you can narrate your thoughts in the past, especially using a chunk like this, that's great for your scores.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to use real material from your real life. You know, there's not a textbook answer for this. You should use what's really going on in your life. That will put that passion into your pronunciation.
Absolutely. Yes. Right. If this is actually happening to you, it's going
Yeah.
to be hard to say that with a monotone. If you really do have frustration with these upstairs neighbors, it's going to come out,
Yes.
the emotion.
All right, Aubrey, what if you get a part 2 answer, something like, describe a time when you were really proud of yourself? How could you answer that?
Yeah. So, as part of that 2-minute answer, I might say, I've always had an issue with procrastinating. And every time I put something off, I think, not this again. However, last week I was assigned a project and I jumped right on it. I was really proud of my ability to overcome this tendency I have to procrastinate.
Again, narrating our thoughts, right?
Yes, exactly.
On a
right?
regular basis. Yeah, love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
And what
All
about
right.
you, Lindsay? If you
Yeah.
were asked on part 3, what are the disadvantages of living in a big city? What might you say?
Yes, public transit can be unreliable. When I lived in New York, subway lines would often not be running, and I'd get to the station and be like, not this again.
Oh, I've definitely
Especially
had
on
that
Saturdays.
experience. Yes, on the
Oh.
weekends when trains are running like local only, because I lived on the express train, the A train express,
Yes.
and if it was running local, then it would take so long to get downtown.
Yes.
Not this again.
Yeah, and that was always when you had family or friends in for the weekend and you were
Always.
navigating them around, and then they get the announcement, this train's going express, it's going express, it's going local. Oh gosh.
So
yeah.
then you have to hear them complaining about how unreliable public transit is. And you're like, usually it's not. It's usually great. We just got unlucky.
New York memories. Love it. Good stuff.
But you can really see how this would boost vocabulary scores and pronunciation scores. So you want to really avoid, if you say this, don't say it in a monotone. Let that emotion show through, that frustration, irritation. You want to hear that in your tone. And then just because this is more rare, it's higher scoring. So it'll also boost your vocab scores.
It's an opportunity, right?
Yes.
Don't miss the opportunity. That's the key here.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, Aubrey. So there are other ways that we could indicate frustration, because that's what this listener was asking for, about something that's happened multiple times that won't actually require that we narrate our thoughts like we just have talked about. What would be some examples?
So first is the phrase same old story. So this very similar. This means something that's happened over and over, and usually something irritating, frustrating. So in part 1 or part 2, maybe you're asked about a recent birthday. What could you say, Lindsay?
You could say something like, I thought this birthday would be the same old story with some friends and a fun hangout, but then they threw me a surprise party. Everyone I knew was there. It was amazing.
Nice. Amazing, right? Now you've added this idiomatic language instead of saying like, I thought it would be just the same birthday every year. However else you could say that. This is impressive to add this idiom, same old story.
Amazing how we can go from taking an answer from average to impressive by making small tweaks. Right?
Absolutely. That's not that big of a change, right? You're boosting, you're getting that variety of vocabulary the examiner's looking for. Definitely adding interesting intonation, right? If you're talking about friends surprising you, you want to sound like you were excited about that, right? For sure.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And then the other thing we could say is same thing, different day. Tell us about this one, Aubrey.
Yeah, so something that's happening over and over, especially if it's annoying. For example, in part 1, you're often asked about work. And if it is repetitive, often this is the case, right? You could say, it's a bit repetitive, to be brutally honest. Update contracts, file paperwork, same thing, different day. Just an interesting way to say same thing happening over and over.
And I like that one because it feels very colloquial. It feels natural, feels native. That's a great one to boost your score. Yeah?
Absolutely. And then third.
And then business as usual. Also really good and shows just how mundane things are, right?
Absolutely.
So,
it doesn't have to actually have anything to do with business, right? Literally, this means like when a business is running, what do they do? Like their standard operating procedures is business as usual, but we use this idiomatically too, right? If I say, I drink coffee every morning, it's just business as usual. If I can get up and have my coffee, it just means the same thing that you're used to.
Right. Or for example, maybe an examiner asks you about typical weather where you live. You could say there are rarely thunderstorms, and when there are, it pours at night, and by the morning, it's back to business as usual.
So what an interesting way to say it's back to what we're always used to, right? It has nothing to do with business, actually. Here it's about the weather. It's back to business as usual by morning.
You're right, Aubrey. And it is so much more interesting than saying it's back to what we're used to or it's back to normal, right? That's kind of boring. It doesn't get you the high points.
Right. Yeah. Kind of boring and just more common, right? Examiners hear that really often. This business as usual, you will probably be the only person that says that day. So it's automatically boosting your vocab score.
And that's the key to keep in mind here. The less common you are, the less the examiner has heard the words you're using on test day by other students, the higher your score will be. Right, Aubrey? As long as you're using them correctly.
Exactly. Right. So for all of these, they have very similar meanings of just like the same thing that we're used to, a little boring, repetitive. And then you do want to know more than one way to say this. You might have the opportunity to use these in multiple questions. You don't want to repeat what you've already said. Use one of these others to, instead, like you said, of saying the same old thing, use one of these idioms.
I love it. Aubrey, is there another episode our listeners should check out right away to keep going on this learning streak today?
Yes, right. We taught some more idioms recently in episode 1522. Scroll up if you missed it. It was called Is Your IELTS Vocabulary Pulling Its Weight? And there were some really great idioms there. So be sure to listen if you missed it.
Yes. And for a takeaway today, you may often get a question about things that are repetitive. So take advantage of what you've just learned on this podcast, write these down, and find other unique and less common ways to talk about repetitive things, right? Aubrey, that's what it's about. Don't be common.
Exactly, right? Use these in your own practice sample answers. These are pretty flexible. So whatever you're asked about, think about how can you use these idioms to boost those vocab scores.
I love it. Great episode today. And guys, if you love our style of teaching, go ahead and hit the follow button right here on the IELTS Energy podcast. Or if you prefer to watch us, we're on YouTube. So hit subscribe on IELTS Energy on the on our YouTube channel.
Yes, I'm waving in case you're watching on YouTube.
Yes, you can see all our gestures and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Sometimes it is easier to learn that way, right? By just watching our gestures, watching us communicate with each other.
Yes, right. Especially if you're a visual learner. Come check us out on YouTube, IELTS Energy TV.
All right, great stuff. Talk soon, Aubrey.
Awesome.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye.